Start, sit, or drop. I have a bunch of pitchers here to quickly talk about. Up first, we have Quinn Priester, who struggled with control at the Cubs. 4 1/3 innings here, 5 walks, but only allowed 1 run. Still had 13 whiffs on 95 pitches. This was his first start with more than 2 walks since June 4th, so I don't really want to overreact to it too much. He's not a drop, very clearly. You're holding on to him. He's been very good this season. What about starting Quinn Priester? It looks like he's in line for 2 next week against the D-backs and at the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I don't love the matchups. There's definitely some ratio risk there. He has a 143 whip in the month of August with a 4.29 ERA. Not unusable, but given the matchups, the Blue Jays especially, I think he's a fringe option in Roto. I think he's fine in points at least.
Yeah, I think for sure in points. I think it depends on what categories you're looking for at this point in the season. If you're looking for wins and strikeouts, he doesn't give you a ton, but in 2 starts, maybe he'll give you 10, 12 strikeouts, something like that. But I agree, there is a little bit of ratio risk there with Quinn Priester. Clayton Kershaw just missed out on a quality start at the Rockies, 5 2/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, only 3 strikeouts. He doesn't get many whiffs at this point in his career, but he's finding ways to keep runs off the board. 4 starts in August, a 1.90 ERA, a .97 whip, only 13 strikeouts over 23 2/3 innings. He's 75% rostered, 51% started, and gets the Reds next week. How do you feel about Kershaw?
You know you're not going to get strikeouts. You know you've got a decent chance for a win. I don't trust the low 3s ERA, but if you think of him as like a high 3s ERA, then he's a fine streamer. I don't think it's a must start at all for Clayton Kershaw, but he's an okay streamer. It's hard to justify in points just because the strikeout upsides are really low.
Yeah.
And so the ratios don't matter. What I mean there is obviously strikeouts matter directly in Roto, but if he's 6 innings, 2 earned runs next week, that's great for Roto. It's good for points, but then you need the win if it's only 3 or 4 strikeouts to really push that up. So I think he's probably better in Roto than points, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say I actually think he's better in points because I think he's more likely to give you a quality start and get those bonus points.
Okay.
And maybe the strikeouts are more valuable in a Roto league, but yeah.
That's reasonable.
He's been fine, it's just like
he's not a difference maker anymore.
Yeah, like in the right matchups, against the Reds at home, it's fine. It's not. I agree, it's not a must start, but if you're in a pinch, I think you can use him. Sean Manaea had another mixed outing here. This one at the Nationals. The overall line 4 2/3, 4 runs allowed. You don't like that. 8 strikeouts to 1 walk, a season high 8 strikeouts, 7+ strikeouts in back-to-back starts here. I find it very curious that he's just become a 2-pitch pitcher all of a sudden. I mean, he's really kind of taking this Chris Sale comp from last year to heart and only throwing his fastball and his sweeper this season, and his velocity is down a little bit. But if you trust the underlying numbers that we normally look at, Chris, while he has a 5.15 ERA, 3.93 FIP, 3.54 xFIP. So perhaps Sean Manaea has been a little bit unlucky here. Down to 81% rostered, 55% started, and it looks like he's in line for 2 starts against the Phillies and the Marlins next week.
Yeah, xERA is not quite as optimistic about him. It's a 3.92 mark, which is not, well, it was 3.92 before today. I don't know what it is after.
He only allowed 4 hard hits, 83.9 average exit velocities.
Yeah, even last year, once he made that switch in late July, early August, it was basically 85 to 90% fastball sweeper, and then he'd mix in a couple of changeups. So that's just probably who Sean Manaea is, especially with this lowered arm slot. The rest of his pitches might not work from that arm slot. So I think he's pretty fringy. I know that the ERA estimators are a little better. I feel like the fact that he's not pitching deep into games at all, he hasn't gone more than 5 innings at any point, and I think that's just kind of, the Mets have done that a lot with David Peterson. They were doing that a lot with Tyler McGill early on when he was having success. So I think they know that they probably have to limit these guys' exposure to get the most out of them. And I think that just limits Sean Manaea's utility. So he's okay, but in a points league, well, 2 starts next week. He's okay in a points league, I guess.
Phillies, tough matchup. Marlins, they're scrappy.
I think the Marlins are a decent matchup now.
I'd be okay with it in the points league next week.
Yeah, I think he's an okay streamer next week.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit similar to Quinn Priester. There is some ratio risk here with Manaea, but he's actually getting more strikeouts than someone Quinn Priester. Sure. So if you're looking for strikeouts and chasing wins in roto or categories, I do think it's still fine to use Sean Manaea next week.
You could get 15 strikeouts from him next week.
Yeah. Mackenzie Gore struggled on the other side of that game with control in particular. 4 1/3 innings, 3 runs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, only threw 61% of his pitches for strikes, 10 hard hits allowed in this game. The average EV over 100 miles per hour for Mackenzie Gore here. And it's tough because his previous 2 starts were very good, quality starts, 17 strikeouts, just 3 walks. You think maybe he's trending back in the right direction, but Mackenzie Gore is the ultimate Charizard. You never know what you're going to get from him, especially at this point in the season. 58% started, and at the Yankees next week, I think there's a good chance you can get away from Mackenzie Gore next week.
I think you can sit him, and it's fine. Although there's a lot of that Jesus Luzardo in there, where if he goes out and strikes out 10 over 7 innings next week, nobody should be surprised. It's just there's a ton of ratio risk along the way. What I will point out is after next week, so week 24, I guess, we're close. Marlins and Cubs. Cubs are the worst offense in baseball in the second half.
That's true.
It's as shocking as that is. The Cubs are dead last in the majors in weighted runs created plus in the second half, and I think the Marlins are bottom 10. So I think you're starting Mackenzie Gore for that one. There's always going to be ratio risk, and he might be a guy that the matchup doesn't really matter. It's just, does he have it that day or doesn't he? But I think you probably just want to ride the ride. I think that's the way I'd view it.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Dylan Cease, who I feel like copy-paste analysis from Mackenzie Gore to Dylan Cease. Man, it's
a lot less upside this season.
A blast start here, but he picked up the win against the Giants. 5 innings, 4 runs, 7 strikeouts, 2 homers allowed in this one. Still had 13 whiffs. He's been searching. He's been mixing in other pitches recently. This curveball, sinker, sweeper, just throwing some more stuff. And it's tough because he's another one where the last he looked pretty good in the second half, and then his last 2 starts here have been very bad. So he's at Seattle next week. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? I'm defeated. I'm like done. I don't know what else to say about Dylan Cease.
It's sort of the opposite of where I've been on Seth Lugo the last 2 seasons, where I've been so consistently wrong on Dylan Cease all season that I almost feel like I don't want to offer a take or any advice on him just because I've been wrong the whole time. Why would that change moving forward? I still think he's clearly talented. He's also clearly not right now, and the underlying stuff is better. Like, the underlying stuff suggests he should be a must-start guy, although not necessarily an ace, but hasn't been there. So I fully understand if you just want to be done with Dylan Cease. I don't think you can drop him, but if you just want to nail him to your bench, go for it. That being said, at Seattle, great place to pitch.
Tougher lineup though now.
Tough lineup, but still a great place to pitch. It's if he has a great start next week, don't be surprised.
I think I would be okay using some of the sleeper pitchers on Scott's list that we're going to talk about in a little bit over someone like Dylan Cease. So
especially with one start, that's
yeah, the Hurston Waldrop and Cam Schlittler.
I think that
take a shot on both of those guys over Quinn Priester at this point, just based on their matchups for next week. Sonny Gray, mid at Tampa Bay, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, 13 whiffs on 92 pitches. Kind of feels like he deserved a better start here. He didn't allow much hard contact. He had a good amount of whiffs. It's mostly been a rough second half with 2 great starts that are mixed in. He gets the Pirates next week, so I think you're just kind of leaving him in there. But yeah, look, in the second half, it's a 6.75 ERA and a 153 whip. So it's bad.
Yeah, it's also only been 3 bad starts out of 7.
But really bad.
Oh, really, really bad. One was 8 runs and 3 1/3. The other 2 were 6 runs over 5 innings. But other than that, it's been fine. Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln, right?
We need Scott here to do the Mitch Keller analysis. If we remove these three starts from Sonny Gray.
I think Sonny Gray is a 380-ish pitcher with wide error bars around that. So there are going to be stretches, and we've seen them this year, where he's a 2.50 ERA guy, and there's going to be stretches where he's a 5 ERA guy. I think on the whole, you probably just keep him in your lineup, especially with a great matchup.
All right, last name here is Luis Gil, who struggled to throw strikes against the Red Sox. 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 walks to 3 strikeouts, threw just 56% of his pitches for strikes. And that's 3+ walks in 3 of 4 starts. We know that's been a big issue for him. Even last year when he won the Rookie of the Year, control is a big problem for Luis Gil. He's 82% rostered, 52% started. He has those same matchups as Cam Whitler next week. The Nationals at the White Sox. He does pitch Tuesday in a 7-game week, so it's not a guarantee he'll make that second start. Sometimes teams will throw in an extra pitcher to kind of space everything out. So keep that in mind. But it's
do the
hard.
Yankees have a
Ryan Yarbrough is on a rehab assignment right now, so I guess he could be back for next week. But it's hard to deny those matchups. They're pretty good.
I was going to say, it's been more than a year since Luis Gil was a must-start pitcher. We might just have to give up on it. But with those matchups, if you have him around, it's fine. I think I'd lean towards not using him in a roto league unless you really don't care about your whip, because that's where it's a real disaster. 168 whip so far. ERA's been fine and probably will be okay, just even when he's not pitching well, just because he's so hard to barrel up. But yeah, I think there's a ton of risk in a roto league in starting Luis Gil.
Yeah. You know who he feels a little bit like, Chris? It's not the same profile, but kind of reminds me of Edward Cabrera, where he almost relies on his secondary pitches more as like his go-to, because his fastball is so hard for him to command. He almost throws his changeup like it's his fastball. He's more of a fly ball pitcher, Luis Gil is, and Edward Cabrera gets more ground balls, and he has a wider arsenal, but they both throw very hard, and their secondary pitches are very good. But yeah, he almost pitches backwards in that way, like using his changeup as his fastball, and just good stuff. It's just really, really hard for him to command.